becoming a normal Twitter account, which I think is fine. I'm not really too opposed to that. So okay, so here's the deal. I am going to talk about Mad Men, and I'm talking about a particular scene in Mad Men that like really hit me. Um, and I think it's actually like super powerful. So what I'm going to try to do here, and I don't know if this is possible or not. You just got dad face lean into Stephanie. You are supposed to say, "No, you look great." Instead, it's dad's face. So here's the now again, I want to preface this with massive spoilers for Mad Men. So if you have not seen the show and you or you haven't watched the ending and you want to know the ending, um, don't watch this because I'm going to spoil the ending. So huge spoilers for Mad Men. Um, third person watching. Shut yourself. No, I'm just kidding. Don't you guys do not have to. Babylon Mad Men song. So, anyways, here we go. I want to. There's a way that I think I can stream on. Hi, Emily. It is good to see you. So again, I've never actually watched Mad Men, but exactly. That's why I'm doing this also because it's super cold. So I think there's a way I can actually drop this into the feed, but I don't know. So I think Luke doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. Let me see if he can do this. Nope. Stream. I don't have access to that feature. Okay, so that's fine. That is not a big deal. All right. So if you guys can, I'm gonna put this link in here and whole mini series about Mad Men. Yes, actually would love to do that at some point in time. I think I will. Emily, I've actually thought about doing that. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. So okay, so I put a link in to the chat. If you guys can, I apologize. I don't know what I'm doing yet with this. So I wish I could just like play it on here. I don't know exactly. I know there's a way to do that, but it's in YouTube Studio, and I'm not in YouTube. Well, I'm in Studio, but there's like a control room that I don't know how it works yet. This is the second time I've ever done anything like this. So if you can, there's a link right there. Watch that. I'm going to hit that right now. I'm going to kind of, nope, I do not want to leave. So I'm going to hit cancel and we'll go with that. So, this is a scene from the 6th episode in its history of the show Mad Men. It came out, I want to say, around 2008, 2009. This episode in particular is called Babylon. And so, if I have to say so many Mad Men thoughts, yeah, please, like anything you guys want to have to say, please type it in there. And again, massive spoiler alerts. I will be talking about the end of Mad Men, the middle of Mad Men, the beginning of Mad Men. Thoughts and theories on Mad Men. I should probably know theories. I don't know any theories about Mad Men, but so if you do not want anything to be spoiled, just any thoughts you have, any questions, please put them into the chat. That'd be great. Again, so this is brand new. We're just trying to do some new stuff. One of the things I did when I was doing all of this marketing stuff for Catching Foxes is I saw that people really enjoy it when we do more interactive stuff, and so I want to do more things like that. From chatting with the guys to doing things like this. This is kind of like a hybrid of some things that people told us that they liked. So, okay. This scene in Mad Men comes at the very end of the episode. There's a few key things that happen in this episode that I want to talk about here very quick. So again, this is very beginning of the series. This is the 6th episode. Don Draper has I don't know if he started having an affair with Midge. She is the Jewish woman who is now running her dad's department store down in Manhattan, trying to expand, trying to grow the store. You start seeing a lot of the internal issues with Betty. She's struggling a lot with how she's aging and other things. How she used to be she was a model for a very short period of time. She's a very beautiful woman who that's kind of what she clings to and all that she really knows. And she is wrestling with a bit with what is expected of her. And then you also have Peggy starts as the show as basically she is a secretary at that point in time. And this is the episode where it is first brought up that Oh, sorry. Thank you, Rebecca. I apologize. That's right. Midge is the hippie. Rebecca's the store owner. So sorry. Rebecca's the Jewish woman who is the store owner. I'll get to Midge into just a second. Peggy goes into the they're doing like a little almost like basically they have a focus group with a lot of the ladies who work over at Sterling Cooper. I'm going to say Sterling Cooper Price. I think it's just Sterling Cooper at that point in time. So and Peggy brings up a really good idea that type of shows. Rachel, it's okay. I'm so tired. It's Rachel. Okay, glad there's only 5 of you here. I am so off today. Hello, everyone who just joined us. It's Luke from Catching Foxes talking about my favorite scene in Mad Men, or one of my favorite scenes. Massive spoilers for Mad Men, and I'm screwing up everyone's name. It is Sterling Cooper. They're doing a focus group, and they're doing it particularly on lipstick. Peggy brings up a couple of thoughts that it's Bill Murray's brother. I can see his face. Is it? I think it's like Freddie or whatever. Starts to see that she's kind of got an original voice, and he recommends that she might be good as a writer. We also see that Roger. I think if you want to watch the scene, I posted the link. I think I might be able to pin it. Let me see. Yeah, so I pin the link to the chat. So if you guys want to, if you are joining us at any point in time, you can watch that. You also have like Roger. How am I forgetting her name? With the red hair, played by Christina Hendricks. How am I forgetting her name? This is crazy. Oh, nice. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, please stay safe. Please stay warm, particularly if your power's out right now. Please stay warm and please stay. Joan, thank you. Rebecca, I'm not going to need you as a producer, I think, for all this. So we see Roger and Joan. They're having their affair, and they have a very poignant shot at the very end where they're basically on two ends, acting like complete strangers. Now, this is a very important episode for the show. Oh, I forgot to talk about who Midge is. So then there is Midge. She's this hippie that Don is having he's having an affair with, and this is actually one of the coolest parts, I think, of the show is when this is the episode where he's at her place. One of her friends comes over. There are cops outside, and there's an argument about why Don about being part of the man, being part of the system. Don basically brings up, well, here's what's great about being part of the system is you're too scared to go outside because of the cops, because you're high or whatever, and I'm not. And just a really interesting. It is depressing. I think it's actually really interesting if you watch it through a Christian lens. Because there's a lot of hope, but a lot of it's basically a morality tale, right? So the end of that scene, there is a song being played called the waters of the Babylon, and it shows all the main characters from this particular episode. And the song is based off of, I believe, Psalm 137, which comes from the war between the Babylonians and the Jewish people. And what happens is the Jewish people lose, and they basically lose their identity as a nation. They lose their country, and they're forced to become part of Babylon. And they are like weeping because they have lost Zion. They've lost the promised land. One of the ideas behind why they have lost the promised land is because but particularly their leaders have sinned against God. They have gone against the promises of God established when when they told God through Samuel they wanted to have a king. God said, "Do you really want this?" They said yes, and they said, and God was like, "Oh, okay, but here's all the things that the king has to do," and it works out. Then it doesn't work out, and it's basically the story of man's continual unfaithfulness to God or to His promise or to he is meant to be, which is like the chosen people of God. I would argue like the beloved children of God in light of the New Testament. So yes, the Jewish people lose to the Babylonians, but ultimately it happens because of their unfaithfulness, particularly the unfaithfulness of their leaders to God, which brings up this really interesting argument about public actions, against private actions and public responsibility, or your public face, because a lot of the sins of Jewish leaders, particularly David, are private sins. That's the affair with that like one lady who sees Alec bathing, and it's the having the kid, and it's the having her husband killed, and then like his son and all the horrible things that like he did, and so it's all these private sins that people do, and it's like there is a public consequence to that, because within Judeo-Christianity, the public and the private are one. Now, that doesn't mean that people aren't entitled to their own privacy when bad things happen. It just only means that like we are integrated individuals. We are one. You cannot separate the things we do in private from the face we give to the public. Again, it doesn't mean that people have a right to know what your private things are, or that your public persona is any less because of the sins that you do. It just means there are consequences to both, and you cannot try to be one or the other, and that they both impact each other, and they both like what you do in private counts for who you are just as much as what you do in public counts as for who you are, and there are consequences to both. And ultimately that's why the Jewish people lose to the Babylonians. There are sure there's other people who might not agree with this, and that's totally fine. Lose to the Babylonians because of their unfaithfulness to God, and they are not being who they are meant to be in private and in public as well. So they basically lose Babylon. This song is on a entire like reflection on that loss. They weep upon we wept for thee, Zion, on the shores of like Babylon. They weep for Zion because they have lost Zion. It is gone. Why does this song play during this part of the episode? They're one of the most pivotal parts, I think, of the entire almost series of the show. Why this song? Why this particular psalm? Why do they do this? I used to think because they were trying to show the dichotomy of involved, of like, we're trying to be holy, but we're not. I know the characters aren't trying to be holy, but they're basically trying to use that psalm as a way to be like, I wish I was this one thing, but I'm not. And I don't think that's what's going on at all. I think the song is actually foreshadowing what is to come. That the private actions of these individuals are going to destroy their entire lives. Exactly. Oh, that is. I see, and that's. I totally agree with you, Emily. This is one. That's probably my. This is why I don't call the What is Babylon scene my favorite of the whole show, even though I'm due at times, or I might feel tempted to. I think that is the crux of the whole show, because the great sin of Don Draper is that he takes a good man's name and he does nothing with it. So instead of taking a good man's own name and having a good family and just trying to live a good life, which he deserves. He fought in a war. He had a horrible home life. He was abused as a kid, both like physically, mentally, as well as like sexually. He's given permission by the spouse of the man whose name he takes to take that name. He's given the American dream on a platter, which isn't the wife and the kids and the fence. It's a new life. That's that's his promise. That's his calling. And he's abandoning that by having this affair, because he can't stop doing the very thing that he wants to do for a new life, which is continually reinvent himself. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. People, and I think it's meant to be portrayed as abuse. I don't think it's meant to be portrayed as like, isn't this cool that Don got to hook up with this girl when he was a teen? I think no. I think it's shown as like, this is he's messed up. He's a messed up individual. And I agree. Same. I think him and Mrs. Draper, she's actually like the one calling him to like hope and reality. I think, he and I think they're playing this song because everyone it's not about what's happening, it's about what's going to happen. The affair that Joan and Roger have with each other will eventually destroy Roger's marriage. It'll destroy his ability to love and to connect with others until he has to basically start doing drugs and just really screw himself up to start seeing what he wants and start seeing and to be okay with the life that he has. And everyone at this point in time thinks they can have their secret life. And I think you see that immediately as the song starts to play, which is why I think people think that the song is about what they are experiencing. I mean, it is Jane, but I think that if Roger's a better husband, his marriage is able to overcome that. He's already made his choices. He is who he is, and he's not. Roger's kind of interesting because he's like he's a terrible human being that you really really like because of his one-liners, and he Don Draper is a terrible human being that you like because you're invested in him as a person. Um, Roger's the lovable asshole that everyone loves to hang out with because deep down he shows up. Yeah, yeah, and like I would agree, he genuinely cares for his ex, and he genuinely I think he realized that like yeah, I was not a very good person, and so you might ask, okay, so what does this song have to really do with Midge? Both her and Dawn are aware that what they're doing. We'll go into Pete Campbell in a bit. Pete's the hero of Mad Men, in my opinion. Well, kind of. So with Midge, she knows that what they're living is a lie, and I would almost say that like she's aware that the hippie like vagabond, bohemian lifestyle that she is living is also a lie that's going to ultimately end in some type of pain. And so it's not the pain that she's experiencing, it's the fact that she on the knows that they are all failing at what they should be, which one of them might be a little bit different, but we see where she ends up. She ends up a heroin addict who basically tries to run into Don so she can squeeze more like money out of him. I think she knows that's where her life is heading, but she doesn't make any choices otherwise. And everyone yeah, exactly. She doesn't want to bring on Betty. She wants the fake. She like not that her not that her art's like I'm a fake or anything, but she doesn't. She wants the artist's life, or she wants all the fun without any of the cost. She doesn't want any of the work. She doesn't want any of the baggage that goes along with that. So when they're high and they are stuck inside during that episode, they constantly complain as if it's the cop's fault, and it's like, well, you're the ones who are making the choice to do this thing that is absolutely illegal. And she does work for a greeting card company. I forgot about that. Don's able to make moral compromises in his mind because Don's not like a real Don's like a I don't know. Don is not like a super deep artist. Don is a pop artist. Don's like his like superpowers to understand things at a very profound level, and so he can like draw up a quick little ad, but it's not the drawing that's good; it's the idea into the drawing that's good. And I think he when people accuse him of being some type like a sellout, as this guy does, Don's like, I don't care. Like Don thinks there is really no meaning. He's like, I'm doing this just to get paid to take care of my family, which is actually not necessarily a bad thing. The interesting part though is that he's failing like this other. I mean, being a good dad is being a provider, taking care of your family, as being a good mom. I'm not trying to like assign gender roles here. I'm saying the part of his responsibility as a parent, as a husband, is to is to provide both on an emotional as well as some type of like financial, well, to take care of the people that he is responsible for, just as that is Betty's job as well. And he is failing. He's doing the financial part right, but he's actually failing at the emotional part of that, which is just as, if not, I would argue, more important than the financial part. And I don't mean that they need to be uber rich. I'm just saying, like, just make sure that they have a house, they have like food and stuff. And he is, excelling at that, but he's failing at this other part, which means it's all going to come crumbling down, because you cannot your public image and your private image are the same thing. One impacts the other. And if you fail at one thing, it will hurt the other one. And that's what this song is about. It is a foreshadowing of what is to come. Take like Rachel, the store owner. You could, I know that line is so good. You could imagine, she's going, I don't remember exactly. I didn't watch this episode before I talked about this. I think she's somewhat going against her like father's wishes, or the people who think that she's going against what her dad would want. If you view her dad as God, she's seen as you could make the argument that she's going against the wishes of God, because it isn't enough to be this thing. She wants to go above and beyond what the original intent of her like almost a father's store was. I think. And if I'm right about that, what is her punishment? Her dad doesn't like the not exactly. What is her punishment? Her punishment is death. She goes against, like, which is the punishment of a lot of the Israeli kings and leaders, is death. And see, I don't know if it's necessarily so, like, they say it is change, but I think actually what he's talking about is identity. Yeah. So, like, I think it's not really about, so, like, we would view it as like being as change, but actually it's like, no, this really matters to me. My people, my heritage, my thing, that really matters. I want to preserve that. That's what we are all about. She goes against that. And again, the song, when she's in it, is not about what she's doing, although it kind of is. It's about what is to come. She will die because of the choices that she is making, because she's going against the promise of, God's covenant between that and the Israelites. So I think it's super. I don't know. I mean, I could be totally I'm wrong about this. So just take this all with a grain of salt. I think the most obvious, I think I talked about Joan and Roger. Now, the interesting thing is Joan, she comes out, she's got the bird in a cage, same thing. The bird is meant to, it's not necessarily bad to have a bird, but it's bad to keep the bird locked up. That's not what it is meant for. The bird's meant to go out, to be free, to be beautiful. They want to keep it private. They want to keep the sin hidden, and you cannot do that. It goes against the very nature of who we are, and so it's all going to come crumbling down. You can make the argument that what do Joan and Roger, like, one of the things that, like, they lose because of their choices is the ability to actually be a couple, because I think they both actually really love each other. They deeply care about each other. But I think Joan will always view herself as one of Roger's prized concubines. And that's all she is. And she doesn't want anything other than that with him, because I think that it just um for her, I think it's too, she still just views herself as that. And I think she can't allow herself to be anything other than that, because it's just what she knows. And she's trying to climb a ladder how she's been able to climb that a ladder she has, which is totally unfair to her. Keep that in mind. Is she has accepted that fact. I think, think back to what happened with the Jaguar account. When Dawn speaks up about this is wrong, she tells Dawn that's not your choice to make. She made that choice a long time ago because she felt like she had to. And every time she's actually tried to be with a man, it just doesn't work out, which is very unfair to her. Super unfair. She was raised to be adored and valued for beauty. Exactly. And I think she doesn't really know how to love, But she is like surprising, like a really like she knows how to be a really good friend. She knows how to be a very good friend. She knows how to take care of you, and she does that with a lot of people. She wants to take care of Roger, but like only in a certain context. So, okay, Betty. So I haven't verified this, but I think it's interesting. I believe in that video we see Betty putting on almost Sally's makeup. Betty's wearing blue, I think, which is a Marion color, obviously. And then you have the very end of the season. Again, this is massive spoiler alerts for the show. So if you have not finished Mad Men, just turn this off right now and go away. This is massive, huge spoiler. Okay, you really should be gone if you don't want anything spoiled. When Betty gets cancer at the end of the show, I think she tells in her note to Sally because she was going to refuse treatment. She doesn't want to, again, she prizes her like beauty, and Betty and Joan are from the same tree. Yes, Betty and Joan are two different branches on that tree for sure, but they are somewhat a part of. I don't know. I think they're maybe from the same forest. I'm not sure if it's the same tree. But so anyways, with Betty, I struggled a bit with like why is Betty included in this, and it makes sense in the context of the episodes. But yeah, true. That is actually very very true. So that's a good point, Emily. I, I think I don't know if this is foreshadowing her death or not, but I do think it does, regardless of what the author's intent. I could be totally wrong there, but when Betty I'm writing the note to Sally about how she wants to look at her funeral, she says a blue dress, and Betty Betty can never really get beyond. Um, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if Betty's death is punishment, which is what I'm really getting at. I agree there are tons of color themes here, and I'm not trying to argue that in the way that I think that Rachel's death is punishment. I think you could make that argument that it is punishment for betraying her people, essentially. Um, and it with Betty's death is a tragedy, but it's also a tragedy because she doesn't choose to get better. And I don't think she could, but the fact that she doesn't even choose to try because she doesn't want to see anyone see her almost suffer. She wants to keep the perfect image up. Um, and this is where I think she's different from Joan. Joan doesn't really necessarily care about the perfect image per se. She cares about, well, she does. Okay, sorry. Joan's perfect image is both a private and a public image that she it is like a subtle thing. Well, it's not too subtle when it's public, and it is overt when it is private. Betty, um, she tries to go back to school, and I think, which is actually a good thing. I don't think she dies because of that. I think because it really for me comes down to what is Betty betraying here? It's for her to be part of this scene right here, for have this song playing in the background. What is Betty? What private sin is she doing that is causing public damage? That's a good point. So I would argue that Betty's death is like low key martyrdom. She spent her whole life trying to be perfect, a beautiful wife to two men who were broken differently, and school is not her destiny. Um, I I I think I would agree with you. I just think that Betty, to a certain extent, is I don't know. I don't. I'm trying to. I don't know why. Like again, this might not be the. I do. I mean, so the writer. I'm not sure if Matthew Weiner wrote this episode, and I believe he is Jewish, and so it would make sense that he would be aware of this, that he would talk about this. But I'm not sure if he's the writer of it or not. But I'm gonna try to talk myself into like Betty's being in this thing, having it fits my theory that this is like foreshadowing. I think I don't know. Okay, I'm just going. I'm going to leave it there and say I don't really know. Which brings me to from okay. I did not know that he planned the whole thing out from episode one. So that makes sense. I am I missing anyone? Oh, last part would be Peggy. Um, Peggy actually, I think, is the one who her like Babylonian moment is coming much earlier than the others. And if the main writer of the show wasn't Jewish, I might say this a little bit of like a Christian thing because like Peggy actually gets like rebirth, like reborn because of that. It's not an easy road, but her sin, her consequence comes much earlier than almost everyone else. Rogers, I don't know. Remember, did they get divorced the first season or the second one? I always forget. He has a heart attack as well, which is somewhat of a come to Jesus moment, but it doesn't really. And that should kind of also. I think that's what also like spurs his divorce to a certain extent. But I think with Peggy, you're seeing um, kind of the inverse going out, where she has this public persona that she's meant to be, which is just a dull secretary who actually has some pretty good private thoughts that are about to be pulled out. So the two are going to become. She's going to actually become more of an integrated person. But in order to do that, she also has to go through. She has her own personal faults as well, which are many throughout the series. But unlike everyone else, she goes through her catastrophic experience in way earlier when she has a baby that she doesn't even know that she had, that when she realized that she is pregnant, which I thought was a brilliant end to her arc for that season, and very tragic too. um that's very true. She is definitely a girl. Joan isn't. Yep, that's a good point. So I want to say, just in case anyone doesn't have access to the chat, Emily brought up this great point. One thing about Betty, she is still a good girl when she marries Don, and through season one, whereas Joan is definitely an adult. It's not till the end of one and two that Betty becomes an adult. I agree. Jane shows up in Jane shows up like season two because she replaces Peg, who gets promoted in the season one finale. Yeah, I would. That's and I think that's such a good point about Betty. Like Betty's one of the most interesting characters I think on the show, obviously for like a whole bunch of reasons. But one of them being I don't think she really knows what she wants, and so I don't think. I mean, she's still trying to I'm gonna figure out all of that stuff, and I do wonder if part of it is she's the one who loses. She's the one who experiences a lot of the consequences, just as a lot of the people who wept on the I know by the water in Babylon for the loss of Zion. Some of them may not have committed any of the sins that their leaders did, but it doesn't mean they don't feel the consequence regardless, because they're all in it together. So the unfaithfulness of their leader is their own unfaithfulness because he or she acts on behalf of all of them. Yeah, I think it's a good point. Life does kind of happen to her. I mean, she definitely tries, and I think you could argue that's probably part of the tragedy of when she dies is that she starts to see some things that she could do. She has some things that she wants, and it's tragically cut short. But it also kind of had to happen that way. I think it makes her story a tragedy because she doesn't ever get to really experience it. But it also her story is complete in it to a certain extent. I think when but that might contradict this part though. So I know I think this is why I love the show, because there's a lot going on here. I think Betty wants to be adored and loved, and she definitely has some ambition, but she's not sure what to do with that or how it manifests her vocation to mother. Totally agree. Totally agree. And she's also kind of that her daughter. Yeah, and you could argue that perhaps that the sin there. This might be true actually. I think I thought about this before, which is why this feels right. Is her sin is actually she's passing it on. that there's this sort of private sin that is which is again part of the Babylonian exile that the Jewish people experience is due to generational sin. That she's already starting to pass that on without ever giving herself the chance to challenge it, to grow out of it, to um ooh, that's interesting. I don't know the feminine mystique. So that's actually a very interesting point. So, anyways, ultimately, I think the show is about like when you look at the Mad Men, the tragedy of it is the failure to be an integrated whole person. And why do we do that? Don is ultimately, even though Don's been through all of the abuse that he suffered as a kid, which you could argue that's why he takes the reaction that he does to certain things. Why Don is basically a sex addict who cannot stop because he resents the world. So this is the way that he copes with that. Um, but what is he really scared of? Why does Don resent the world? Because Don is just like that, and this is why I love the last episode of the show so much. Um, that guy who like shares that he's like the carton of milk in the fridge being passed over and ignored by everyone. Then Don starts to cry and hug him. The guy is not the opposite of Don. The guy is probably what would make the guy is everyone because that's what everyone feels. I don't want to be ignored. I feel like just life happens without me and no one really cares. No one no one loves me. And Don, who's been blessed with good looks and has a lot of charm and a lot of things going for him. None of that matters because he feels the exact same thing. So it's not our appearances, it's not our job, it's not these things that is the ultimate answer to that. It's acknowledging that. Now, but the show doesn't actually provide an answer. The show just acknowledges that Don can see the problem because all that happens is Don just tries to he's able to accept that that's actually his pain, that he just wants to be loved, and I think honestly the answer to that is your vocation. So for Don, as being a like married man, it is his kids, it is his family, it is those things, and the show doesn't really go into this too much. And I think the only reason why they end with the thing that Don did, the coke thing, is just to be like he can still have this peace and be Don. It's not that like Don takes a step backwards to be an advertising guy. I think actually it just shows that he can accept his fears, his own fear, who he is, his desire to be loved. He can accept that. He can he can love others and be the public I'm a persona, which is a person who has to it's okay to be good at advertising. It's okay that Don is good at that. And just because he can accept those things doesn't mean he will then lose some of that ability that makes him so good at his job. Because it's not I don't think it's bad that Don's good at selling coke. But there's a little bit of commentary too, given what's the commercial as well. So there's a lot here. There's a lot that can be discussed. And there's some stuff in the chat that I want to get to. That's really fun here. We'll wrap up in about 10 or about 15 minutes. I think we talked about that. Going to schools, taking control. I think Betty is the manifest that housewives angst that okay, so we talked about that. I also love the end where Sally is doing the dishes, caring for her brothers. I think Sally is ultimately the fulfillment of her mother insofar as she's showing you can be mom and have ambition. I would agree with that as well. And I think that there's nothing inherently wrong with being a mom either, which I don't think uh let me back up here. Someone has to take that role. Someone has to take that role. And I think Don actually tries to I don't agree with Betty that Don has never been there for his kids, but we also see everything through Don's eyes because we don't see the kids unless, for the most part, unless it's somehow in relationship to Don for the most part. Like when Don's not seeing the kids, we don't like. There's very rarely do the arc of the kids are they that far removed from Don himself. So I do reject when Betty says you aren't ever there. I think what she's in Don. I think Don feels some guilt about that. I think what she's really almost telling him is, you can't be me. You can't be a mom to these kids. You're not capable of doing that, but Sally can. Wanting to be known and scared to be known, which is what Betty says to Don when they hook up after their divorce. The worst way to get to know you is to get close to you. Totally, but that's the worst way to get to know anyone. Is to get close because that involves pain, which I think is part of the like. It's why I love they use this on the song. Why are they weeping for Zion? The pain and like suffering of life was always going to be there. It's just what type of suffering do you want? Do you want to die to your own desires, or do you want to hook up with the hot chick on top of the roof, but then you're ultimately going to lose your kingdom and you're going to die? So you're going to suffer. It's just what type of suffering do you want? Do you want suffering that you want to enter into the type of suffering that can help you be a better person, the pain that can transform, or do you want to then experience actual hell, which is you have now lost everything? And these characters constantly are going back and forth between their own hell and Don at different parts of the show is able to find a little bit of peace, and he typically ruins it. Sarah says that's what's part of heartbreaking about him, which is what Betty. Yes, I don't know what you're referring to. Referring to like Sarah, but I agree. Betty saying that about Meg was perfect. What does Betty say about Megan? Is she talking about like Megan saying that the worst way to get to know you is to be close to you? Ultimately, why she and P were able to figure it. Oh, sorry. I also think you can. So this is from Rebecca. I also think you can compare Betty and Trudy because they had a similar upbringing, but Trudy is more self-actualized. Totally agree. I think Trudy was also encouraged, and Trudy doesn't suffer the way that Betty did earlier on as well. But Trudy also bore her suffering to a certain extent. So until it was unjust for her to keep doing so. Like she's aware of what Peter's doing, I think, from like very early on. I think. I might be wrong there. And I think that is ultimately why she and Pete were able to, I'm going to figure it out. That's why Pete had to find himself and realize he had what he wanted the whole time. Yeah, I would agree. And Pete's just, I mean, Pete, like I think one of the most crucial episodes, part of the series is Pete sees his father-in-law at the brothel because he's like, I'm just like you. So Pete, what else does that's Pete's example of manhood. His dad dies early on, so who does Pete tries to find a father figure in pretty much everyone, and Dawn and his father-in-law, who then he sees is just like him, and Pete's actual I think it's kind of interesting that Pete's not in this scene here. So I'm going to go on a really gigantic limb here. I'm trying to keep up with the chat. I apologize if I'm not, because I feel like the chat's it's a great reaction to what I'm saying, and it's providing some great insights. So I apologize if I'm just confusing anyone. But I think it's interesting that Pete's not in this scene particularly because I think Pete's public persona and his private persona are pretty much the same thing, which is an asshole. It's Pete's just he is brought onto the firm because of his family name and all of the connections he has, which he is aware, and his whole family name is just based upon schmoozing. And I mean, just try to think about it. Pete gets into a private argument with a person over a thing that his family did back hundreds of years earlier, which I think is so funny. It's one of my favorite parts. The king ordered it. That's who King Pete really, everything he says, he's really no different for the most part. He flirts blatantly in front of everyone. Don doesn't really flirt a lot at the office, nor does Roger for the most part. It's a lot of the younger guys who do. I know he does punch Lane. That's so the way Lane goes like that is so funny. And so Pete's not necessarily and nor is there isn't anything promised to Pete besides just being a douchebag. And Pete's ultimately able to overcome that because Pete desperately throughout the show wants to actually be a better person. I think he's somewhat attracted and likes Peggy. I think he's devastated at the end of the show when she tells him about the kid. I think that Pete actually is a somewhat decent human being. It's funny. Pete has the arc that you think Harry's going to have. and Harry becomes what you think Pete is in the beginning, and Pete's able to figure it all out. I sometimes don't like what they did with Harry because I really yeah, I really I think I think it makes sense of why Harry would like hook up with that one girl and all that stuff. Um, but it just it I understand why Harry. I also think they probably, I think to a certain extent, they liked the character and the actor. They wanted to keep him involved, but it feels like Harry's purpose kind of probably could have ended like a couple up seasons earlier. But I don't know. I just think it's super interesting that he basically becomes a douchebag. That like it's also funny too because like they all don't like Harry by the end, but you never really see why. I mean, you see him doing things that confirms, but you never see why they have this initial dislike, which I think is probably because Harry's too nice in the beginning and tries to be just he doesn't really stand on anything. Yeah, I would agree. Uh, yeah, I think that's a good point, Emily. There might have been way too many storylines. Um, yeah. When did Kinsey? When did he leave? Is he the guy? Did he lose? I'm forgetting blank. He's the one who lost his eye, right? He's the one who some people say that I'm the most like him. Um, is he's allowing? Sorry, I'm just going back to you guys' comments. You guys have such good running, such good things in here. Pete had to find himself and wrestle with his habit that Don has, where he seemed to just love the mystery and the newness of a relationship with a woman. But once he became familiar, intimate, there was some fails. I agree. I think because Don is addicted to the American dream, with his new starts, a chance at like a new life. I think he wanted it so badly for so long that when he's given the chance, he doesn't even hesitate. He sees it and he goes. And well, there's a little bit of hesitation and like when he's on the train and they see the body and stuff, and then his brother sees him, but he cannot stop doing that because it's how he knows how to cope. Basically, reinvention and sex is how Don copes with stress. And I think that's like why as soon as the song plays, him and Midge, they know they know that they're destined to die, or they're destined to, like, this is going to fail, that they are guilty, they are not die, they are failing, they are betraying their call to God, they are the unfaithful Israelites and they are being told this is your fate if you do not stop what you are doing, and they are 100% aware of their guilt. So it's not only is it about their guilt in the moment, but what their guilt's going to lead to. There is an acknowledgement of that they are going to weep in Babylon. Okay, we have about 5 more on the minutes left. Any other thoughts or ideas about this scene? Do you guys like doing this? Was this fun? Do you guys want to do this again about other shows, maybe about other scenes in Mad Men? It's a little different than what we typically do with Catching Foxes, but I love doing stuff like this. I love being able to just chat with all of you guys over like video and stuff. Great. Okay, good. So I think we're probably going to keep doing this. Are you guys all Patreon supporters? I do recognize the bulk of everyone's name. I'd just be curious if anyone just came on Twitter or all from Patreon. I agree. Emily, I totally agree. I think Mad Men's such a brilliant show. Do it on the Discord. I know. Yes. The one thing about the Discord is I think the Discord is here's my thoughts. And we use the Discord for inside baseball. Because I think the barrier is a little bit high, where with like YouTube, it's just a little bit easier. But I see what you're saying too. Cool. Would you like us? I have one more question about this. Do you want this to be Patreon only? Are you okay with us opening this up to other people, or do you think it's better if this is like a perk of being a patron? Which we could do a much better job of trying to market that as part of the Patreon. I'm gonna like redo all the tiers and stuff. Okay, cool. Anyone Patreon, like the Discord? Patreon only, and I'm not opposed. There's no right or wrong answer here. So I want to kind of see what people like. Cool. Okay, so I think we're probably going to definitely do this again. I like the idea of anyone being able to join as well because I just love content and putting stuff out there. But um, so we might do like a little bit of a like hybrid of both, where perhaps we'll do like one a month that is public and one that's just on. Because I'm thinking about doing this every week, to be honest with you, like Tuesday nights with Luke or something like that. I think if you are doing it on the regularly enough, you can build a new audience that interests people to the pod. Yeah, and that's like where I'm going back and forth. Like, is this inbound marketing or just like a reward? So I think I really love the idea of like the Discord having some inside baseball stuff, and I like the idea of like chatting with different people and different things like that. I think it's actually like really really fun. And so, we've debated doing like podcasts. People like if you pay, you can listen to it, different things like that. But we're just trying to find new and different things to just kind of keep us a little bit on the fresh and just to exercise some of our muscles that we don't like, sports or pop culture that we will talk about on the podcast, but typically only if it relates to a greater topic. Very rarely, I think Harry Potter, which I do. There's a lot of positive responses, especially when I did the marketing thing to the Harry Potter show that we did when around the time that Everly was born. And so I'd like to see us maybe do more of that, but that's pretty broad. And so I think I love just to be able to unpack this one scene in Madness. I think this scene is super, super important. And I just, when we love the Discord as a reward, but it also would be nice to have some extra perks. LOL people. I know. So one of the things that we have to do is we have to basically outsource a lot of that stuff because we just can't do it. It's not our skill set, and we're lazy as shit, and we're bad people. No, but also like it. The Patreon rewards are interesting because I remember having this argument. Matt Fradd, he warned us. He unwarned us about this. It is actually really difficult to do those rewards. So there's the phone calls are actually relatively easy if you do them at a certain level, but like these, Gomer basically had to mail out. We've had a total of around 800 or so patrons. Gomer had to mail. That's 800 things Gomer would have had to have mailed in his free time, which is like just impossible for him to do. So I think what we're going to end up doing is outsource it to Patreon, but it's really expensive to do that. So we'll see how it goes. Harry Potter would be a lot of fun. I would agree too. I think there's a lot of stuff in Harry Potter that we could do. Honestly, though, most of us I'm super happy with just the Discord. There are about 200. Yeah, I agree. I really like the Discord as well. I feel like Discord's now just assume if you have a Patreon, you have your own Discord. Yeah, we really don't have any free time. It's nuts. And so that's, I think, like I felt so bad for Gomer with the stickers because I was like, man, and I think people's like your criticism is 100% valid. We should have done is we should have like outsourced it just to another person. It's we could, but yet it's actually a tremendous responsibility. So if you have like the amount of work it takes to do that is super super high. So I agree with you. I think people would definitely do it, but yeah, that's what I think. I think like if we just Patreon has a pretty good internal way to do that, where they can handle a lot of those mass things. They can print and mail it all at the same place. So okay, it is 4:00. I got to go. I hope you guys are staying warm. I hope you are staying. I hope you are staying safe. How is it where you guys are? Is it bad? It's bad here, but let me check the weather really quick. We're flying up to Phoenix on Monday. On Monday on Christmas morning actually. So I'm glad we're not flying out today. If I'm being honest here. Cleveland isn't bad. Nice. Hello up in Cleveland. I'm a big fan of Cleveland. Have you ever been out to like Hudson or out where do Brian's parents live? Is it Streetsboro? It could be drawing a blank. That's where my brother-in-law is from. And him and my sister used to live in like Streetsboro, or his parents are out in Hudson. I love going out there. It's always fun. Let me see here. What's the weather like right now? Come on, load, people, load. Tracking a deadly storm. Power outages skyrocket. It's -3 degrees right now. It is -23 degrees. In terms of the wind chill, which is insane. Looking for the hourly update. I really hope you guys are all being safe. This is just crazy, crazy stuff. So it makes traveling super hard. Close. don't want so many ads. Why do we live in a world where everyone wants our attention? It's -1, and it's just going to continue to be cold. So, all right. I'm in Connecticut, and it's about to drop and freeze, being windy and rainy all day. So that's where we were before. Kentucky is snowy but cold. Nice. Emily, which part of Kentucky are you in? And have we talked about that before? Are you in Cincinnati? Like in the Cincinnati area? I don't remember. So, guys, I don't want to stop because I just love talking about Mad Men so much. Okay, cool, nice. I feel like we talked before and I mispronounce Louisville, or I've just done that before with other people. You're in Cincy. Wait, do I know you? Did I pronounce your name right? Marita? Ohio, Ashland. Nice, great. Big fan of people from Ohio. Been to Ashland. And man, I just like that. Seriously, all the best parties are Ohio parties. Why oh, nice. Okay, cool. Why I even did this was I'm listening to a lecture on the grade courses. Oh, excellent. Thank you. I'm sorry that that Theology on Taps talk was so bad. That was really bad. I did too much prep work, and then I got in my head a little bit too much while I was doing it. And so, oh, you're fine, Canada. Everyone loves you, even though you didn't win a game with the World Cup. Thank you. Thank you for saying it was hilarious. I tried. It was a bit much. So yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to stop here and go do more of my stuff. But this was fun to chat with you all. I hope you guys are staying home safe. I may do this again tonight. Maybe we'll do something over in the Discord. Talk about more stuff. I just want to make sure that you guys are doing that. You all are doing okay. I didn't even know we were in the WC until it's okay. It's only the first time that Canada had made the World Cup in let's go with 36 years. So you're fine. All right, guys, this was fun. Thank you very much. And I will see you guys. So, new episode of Catching Foxes drops today or tomorrow. We recorded it last night. It was fun. We went very, 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 very long. We're supposed to go for an hour. We did 2. Whoopsies. All right. I will help you all. If I don't talk to you, have a wonderful Christmas. Happy New Year, and God bless you all.